I needed a mother for my sons. She needed shelter. The rich cowboy made a cold proposal. Ethan Caldwell was a man who did not believe in second chances. He lived on a large ranch far from the busy town. The land was wide and quiet, with golden fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. People respected him. Some even feared him. He was known as a rich cowboy who worked hard and spoke little. But inside his big house, things were very different. It was too quiet, too empty. Ethan had two young sons, Noah and Eli. Since their mother passed away 3 years ago, the house had lost its warmth. The boys tried to be strong, but they were still children. They needed someone to guide them, to care for them, to bring laughter back into their lives. Ethan tried his best. He gave them everything: good food, good clothes, a good life. But there was one thing he could not give them: a mother. He did not believe in love anymore. He did not believe in starting over. But he did believe in solving problems. So he came up with a plan. Clara Hayes stood at the front gate of Caldwell Ranch, holding a small, old suitcase. Her clothes were clean but simple. Her face looked tired, but her eyes still held quiet strength. She had lost everything in the past few weeks. Her job was gone. Her landlord had asked her to leave. She had no family nearby and no place to stay. Someone in town had told her that the Caldwell Ranch sometimes hired workers, so she came, hoping for a small chance. Even a kitchen job would be enough. When she arrived, one of the workers looked at her and then quickly led her inside the big house. Clara felt nervous. The house was larger than anything she had ever seen. The floors were clean, the walls were decorated with old paintings, and everything looked expensive. Soon, she was standing in front of Ethan Caldwell. He was sitting behind a large wooden desk. He didn't smile. He didn't even look surprised to see her. "You're here for work?" he asked in a calm, deep voice. "Yes, sir," Clara replied softly. "I can cook, clean, anything you need." There was a short silence. "I don't need a maid," Ethan said. Clara's heart dropped. "Oh, I see," she said quietly, lowering her eyes. "Thank you for your time." She turned slightly, ready to leave. "I need a wife." Clara froze. For a moment, she thought she had heard wrong. Slowly, she turned back. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Ethan looked at her directly now. His face was serious, his voice steady. "I need a wife," he repeated, "but not for love." Clara felt confused. "I don't understand." Ethan stood up and walked closer to her. "My sons need a mother," he said. "Someone who can take care of them, guide them, and be present in this house." He paused before continuing. "And you need a place to stay." The words were simple, clear, cold. Clara held her suitcase tighter. Her mind was racing. "This would be an agreement," Ethan explained. "You will live here. You will have food, shelter, and security. In return, you will take care of my sons and manage the house." Clara looked at him, trying to understand this strange offer. "You don't have to love me," Ethan added, "and I won't expect it. This will not be a real marriage, just a solution." The room felt very quiet. Clara had never imagined something like this. It sounded strange, unnatural, almost unreal. But then she remembered her situation. No home, no job, no support. She had nowhere to go. "What if I say no?" she asked softly. Ethan didn't look angry. "Then you walk away, and nothing changes." Clara nodded slowly. And what if she said yes? Her life would change completely. She would live in this large house. She would care for two boys who had lost their mother. She would become part of a life that was not truly hers. It was a difficult choice, but sometimes life did not give easy choices. That evening, Clara stood in a quiet bedroom inside the ranch house. Her suitcase was placed near the bed. The window showed a beautiful view of the fields, glowing under the setting sun. She had said yes. not because she wanted to, but because she had no other option. From down the hallway, she could hear soft laughter. The boys. She had not met them properly yet, but soon she would. Clara took a deep breath and looked around the room. This place was not her home. Not yet. And she did not know if it ever would be. But one thing was certain. The next morning felt strange for Clara. She woke up early, not because she had to, but because she could not sleep well. Everything around her was new. The room, the bed, even the silence felt different. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. The ranch, the agreement, the life she had stepped into. Clara got dressed quickly and walked out of her room. The hallway was long and quiet. Sunlight came through the large windows, making the place look warm, even if it didn't feel that way yet. She followed the smell of coffee and found the kitchen. Ethan was already there. He stood near the counter, holding a cup, looking out the window. He didn't turn when she entered. "You're awake early," he said. "So are you," Clara replied softly. There was a short silence between them. "You'll meet the boys this morning," Ethan said. "They'll be coming down soon." Clara nodded, but her hands felt a little nervous. She didn't know what to expect. A few minutes later, small footsteps echoed in the hallway. 2 boys entered the kitchen. The younger one, Eli, walked in first. His hair was messy, and his eyes were still sleepy. The older one, Noah, followed quietly behind him. He looked more serious, more careful. They both stopped when they saw Clara. "Boys," Ethan said calmly, "this is Clara." Eli tilted his head. "Who is she?" Clara felt her heart beat faster. Ethan didn't hesitate. "She will be staying with us." Noah looked at Clara closely but said nothing. Eli walked a little closer. "Are you a guest?" Clara smiled gently. "Something like that." Eli smiled back. "Do you like pancakes?" Clara blinked, surprised by the question. "Yes, I do." "Good," Eli said happily. "I like them too." For the first time since she arrived, Clara felt a small sense of ease. The morning continued quietly. Clara helped in the kitchen, even though there were workers. She wanted to feel useful. She made simple breakfast, eggs, toast, and pancakes. Eli was excited. "These are good," he said with a big smile. Clara laughed softly. "I'm glad you like them." Noah ate quietly, but after a few minutes he looked up. "Thank you," he said. It was simple, but it meant a lot. Clara nodded. "You're welcome." Days started to pass. At first, everything felt like a routine she was learning step by step. Clara cleaned, helped in the kitchen, and slowly began to understand the boys. Eli was open and full of energy. He asked many questions and laughed easily. Noah was different. He stayed quiet most of the time. He watched more than he spoke. But Clara noticed small things, how he stayed close to Eli, how he helped without being asked. He cared deeply, even if he didn't show it much. Ethan watched all of this from a distance. He noticed how the boys were changing. They smiled more. They talked more. The house didn't feel as heavy as before. But Clara never crossed any line. She didn't act like she owned the place. She didn't question Ethan. She followed the agreement carefully. And maybe that was what made it more noticeable. Because everything felt right, but also different. One afternoon, Clara found Eli sitting alone outside. "What are you doing here?" she asked gently. "I'm waiting," Eli said. "For what?" "For someone to play with me." Clara looked around. "Where is Noah?" "He's inside," Eli replied. "He doesn't always want to play." Clara smiled. "Then I'll play with you." Eli's face lit up. "Really?" "Of course." They spent the next hour playing simple games near the fence. Eli laughed loudly, his joy filling the air. From the distance, Noah watched them quietly. After a while, he walked closer. "Can I join?" he asked softly. Clara looked at him and smiled. "Of course." And just like that, something small began to change. That evening, Ethan saw the three of them together. Clara was sitting between the boys, listening to Eli talk about something exciting. Noah was smiling slightly, something Ethan had not seen in a long time. Ethan felt something unusual. Not discomfort, not anger, something else, something softer. Later that night, Clara was walking down the hallway when she heard a small knock. She turned and saw Noah standing near his door. "Yes?" she asked gently. He looked unsure. "Can you stay for a while?" he said. "Until I sleep?" Clara paused. This was not part of the agreement, but this was not just about rules anymore. She nodded. "Okay." She sat beside him and told a simple story. Her voice was calm and soft. Slowly, Noah closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep. Clara watched him quietly. Then she stood up and walked out slowly. Ethan was standing at the end of the hallway. He had seen everything. "That wasn't part of the agreement," he said. Clara looked at him calmly. "I know," she replied. "Then why did you do it?" Clara thought for a moment. "Because he needed it." Ethan didn't answer. For the first time, he realized something important. This was no longer just an arrangement, and Clara was no longer just a stranger in his house. Something was changing. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the ranch no longer felt like a strange place for Clara. It began to feel familiar. She woke up each morning with purpose. She knew where everything was, what needed to be done, and most importantly, she knew the boys. Eli was always full of energy. He talked about everything, his games, his dreams, even the clouds in the sky. He laughed easily and trusted quickly. Noah was different. He still spoke less, but he had changed. He stayed closer to Clara now. Sometimes he would sit beside her quietly, just to be near her. He didn't always ask for attention, but he didn't avoid it anymore. Clara noticed these small changes, and she cared. Not because of the agreement, but because her heart had started to feel something real. One morning, Clara was in the kitchen when Eli ran in. "Clara, look outside," he said excitedly. She smiled. "What is it?" "Come see." She followed him outside. The sun was bright, and the fields looked beautiful. Eli pointed toward the sky. "Look at the clouds. That one looks like a horse." Clara laughed softly. "You're right, it does." Noah walked out behind them. He stood quietly, but then spoke. "That one looks like a house." Clara looked at the sky again. "Yes, it does." For a moment, the three of them just stood there, watching the clouds. It was a simple moment, but it felt important. Ethan watched them from a distance. He stood near the barn, his arms crossed, his face serious as always. But inside, something was different. He had not expected this. He had only wanted someone to take care of the house, someone to help his sons. But Clara had done more than that. She had brought life back into their world. That afternoon, a small problem happened. Eli fell while running near the yard. It was nothing serious, but he started crying loudly. Clara quickly went to him. "It's okay," she said softly, helping him sit up. "You're all right." Eli held on to her, still upset. Noah stood nearby, worried but quiet. Clara gently cleaned Eli's hands and spoke in a calm voice until he stopped crying. "It's okay to fall," she said. "It means you were trying." Eli sniffed and nodded. "I'm okay now," he said. Clara smiled. "Good. That's my brave boy." Ethan had seen everything. He realized something in that moment. Clara gave them something he could not. Comfort. That evening the house felt warm. The boys were laughing again. Clara was helping them with a small drawing project at the table. Ethan stood near the doorway watching. He didn't interrupt. He didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, The house felt complete. Later that night, Clara stepped outside for some fresh air. The sky was full of stars. The land was quiet and peaceful. She stood near the fence, thinking. Her life had changed so much in a short time. This was never meant to be permanent. She knew that. But her heart didn't feel the same anymore. "You're thinking a lot." Clara turned. Ethan was standing a few steps behind her. She gave a small smile. "Just a little." Ethan walked closer. "About what?" Clara looked out at the fields. "This place, your sons, everything," she said. "It feels different now." Ethan nodded slowly. "I've noticed." There was a short silence. "You've done more than I expected," he said. Clara looked at him. "I didn't plan to." "Then why?" he asked. Clara thought carefully before answering. "Because they needed it," she said. "And maybe I needed it too." Ethan didn't reply immediately. For a moment, he just looked at her. "And what about this agreement?" he asked quietly. Clara's expression changed slightly. "I don't know anymore," she said honestly. "It doesn't feel like an agreement." Ethan felt something shift inside him again. He had built his life on control, on clear decisions, on simple answers. But this was not simple. Inside the house, Noah stood near the window watching them. Eli stood beside him. "Do you think she'll stay?" Eli asked. Noah didn't answer right away. "I hope so," he said finally. Outside, Clara took a deep breath. "This was supposed to be temporary," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "It was." "But things change," she added. Ethan looked at her, his expression softer than before. "Yes," he said, "they do." For the first time, neither of them spoke about the agreement. Neither of them talked about rules. Because something new had started to grow. Not planned, not expected, but real. And as the night grew quiet, one truth became clear. This was no longer just a deal. It was becoming something much more. 3 months passed faster than anyone expected. The days at the ranch were no longer slow or empty. There was laughter in the mornings, small talks during meals, and peaceful evenings filled with quiet happiness. Clara had become a part of everything, not as a guest, not as someone temporary, but as someone who belonged. Still, one thing remained: the agreement. It had a time limit, and that time was almost over. Clara stood in her room, folding her clothes carefully into her small suitcase. Each piece felt heavier than before, not because of weight, but because of memories. This room had once felt strange. Now, it felt like hers. She paused for a moment and looked around. The window, the bed, the soft light coming through the curtains. She took a deep breath. "This was always temporary," she whispered to herself. But her heart didn't agree. Downstairs, the house felt different that day. Too quiet. Eli sat at the table, not playing, not talking. "Why are you so quiet?" Noah asked. Eli looked down. "Is Clara leaving?" Noah didn't know what to say. He had been thinking the same thing. "I don't know," he replied softly. Ethan stood near the doorway, hearing everything. His expression was serious, but his thoughts were not clear. For the first time in a long time, he didn't have control over the situation. He had made this agreement. He had set the rules. But now, the rules didn't feel right anymore. That evening, Clara took her suitcase and walked outside. The sky was turning golden as the sun began to set. The same place where her new life had started was now the place where it might end. She stood near the fence, looking out at the fields. So many things had changed, but one question remained. Should she stay or leave? Footsteps approached behind her. She didn't turn. "It's time?" Ethan's voice came quietly. Clara nodded slowly. "The agreement is over," she said. Ethan stepped closer. "I can extend it," he said. "You can stay longer." Nothing has to change. Clara turned to face him. That's the problem, she said softly. Everything has already changed. Ethan looked at her, waiting. This is not just an agreement anymore, Clara continued. It stopped being that a long time ago. There was silence between them. Ethan understood what she meant. And for the first time, he felt something he could not ignore. I don't want to extend the agreement, Clara said gently. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Then what do you want? Clara looked at him, her eyes honest. I want something real, she said, or nothing at all. The words were simple, but they carried deep meaning. Inside the house, the boys were waiting near the window again. Eli held Noah's hand. Is she going? He asked quietly. Noah didn't answer, but his eyes were fixed outside. Ethan took a deep breath. For years he had avoided feelings. He had closed himself off, believing that it was easier that way. But now, standing in front of Clara, he realized something important. He didn't want to lose this. He didn't want to lose her. I don't want this to be just a deal, Ethan said slowly. Clara looked at him, surprised by the change in his voice. I don't want something temporary, he continued, and I don't want you to stay because you have no choice. He paused. I want you to stay because you want to. Clara's heart beat faster. This was different. This was real. And the boys? She asked softly. Ethan looked toward the house. They already made their choice, he said. Clara turned slightly and saw them standing at the window, waiting, hoping. Tears filled Clara's eyes, but she smiled. For the first time, she didn't feel lost. She didn't feel unsure. She felt at home. Clara took a step closer. I don't need shelter anymore, she said gently. Ethan nodded. And I don't need an agreement, he replied. There was a quiet understanding between them. No contracts, no conditions, just a choice. Clara looked once more at the fields, the house, and the boys waiting inside. Then she made her decision. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. I'll stay, she said softly. Inside the house, Eli smiled brightly. I knew it, he said happily. Noah didn't say anything, but his face showed quiet relief. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding, and for the first time in years, his voice carried warmth. Welcome home, he said. As the sun disappeared behind the fields, the ranch no longer felt empty. It was no longer a place of silence. It was a place of laughter, care, and new beginnings. A place where a broken plan had turned into something real. A place that was finally a home.